Coming to you live from the palatial studios of PBJ Productions. Welcome to Patrick and BJ Talk Real Estate, where we talk about life, the universe, and everything as it relates to real estate. Hey everybody, it's BJ.
And Patrick.
And we're back talking all things real estate. And, I'm not sure when you're going to see this, but we have spent some time over the last few weeks, I guess, talking about some real estate questions that we hear in terms of definitions. What does this mean? What does that mean? So, we're kind of doing it as a Q&A, except that we've already gotten the questions. So we're going to answer some of them. And if you have any questions specifically about, hey, what does this mean? Or what does that mean? Feel free to put it into the comments or send it to us in an email. And we're happy to, take those things on as we go forward.
Absolutely. And getting to know some of these terms, these real estate terms, and learning some bit of that context to that prepares you in your next real estate transaction, if that's going to be buying your next home, investment property, anything like that, or selling one as well.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
So we're going to get started with these terms. BJ, what does a leasehold mean?
So, we see this more when we're dealing with maybe it's land that is owned by a reserve, or not. It's not really owned, I guess. It belongs to the reserve.
Okay.
So sometimes we see it where a builder might just retain ownership of the whole building, but they lease everything back out from that. So leasehold essentially means you, the owner, own a part of a piece of paper, and that part of that piece of paper gives you the right to live in the condo or the, if it's a home on a certain piece of bare land strata or something like that.
Okay, so if it's reserve land or a private company, they own the land separately, and then I might occupy something on this land?
Yeah, and you're still paying to live there in terms of you're going to have to take a mortgage out on that. But the lease term might be 99 years or 59 years, which, in some cases, it makes sense for certain clients because the price point is considerably less than buying. Let's use a condo as an example.
Okay.
The price point would be considerably less for a leasehold than it would be for just a traditional strata property.
Okay. What would be the reasoning between the price difference because to me on the outside they look the same.
Sure.
Right. There's a couple buildings downtown.
Mm-hmm.
They look like condos. They are strata.
Yep.
But I could buy a condo that's not under leasehold.
Yeah, so there's a couple of differences. From the lender's point of view, there's actually a big difference, is typically they want to see a higher number for your down payment on a leasehold. So
there's a reason for that.
Well, because of the saleability on the other side. It's, leaseholds typically are a little bit more, they're more involved to sell. The prices are less in terms of what they're selling for. And talking about compared to a traditional strata, if I buy a condo in a traditional strata, I own that condo unit and I own part of the common area as part of the strata. If I buy a condo in a leasehold,
Mm-hmm.
I own part of the lease that allows me to live in this unit.
Here we go. Because it's a leasehold, does the term run out?
Probably at some point. Every lease is going to have a term. Every leasehold is going to have a term on it. And typically, so let's say the leasehold is 99 years.
Okay. 99 years. I'm not going to even be around that long.
Right. So people take that into consideration and they say, yeah, that makes sense for me to do from the, cost to live there versus buying a traditional strata. I've had clients over the years who were, one person in particular comes to mind who's a senior, and he said, I have maybe another 10 or 15 years, and I don't really want to, buy a condo.
Yeah.
And I don't, and I don't care what's going to happen in 25 or 30 years because I won't be here.
And they could save on the price point.
Exactly.
Right.
So they would consider a leasehold in that context. And the other part of it is when the lease expires, what happens? Well, the lease holder has no obligation to renew that lease.
Okay, so that's going to lead me to the next question. So knowing the properties here in Victoria, surrounding areas, I'm not aware of any 99 years left on any of the leases. They're more like 30 years, 25 years. So if I am concerned about, well, what if I want to sell this in 10 years?
Yeah.
What should I be aware of?
Well, it's going to be, your price point is going to be the thing that changes, where sure, the property's still going to appreciate because it's real estate is appreciating in Victoria. However, the flip side of that is, as the lease term runs out, without knowing what's going to be on the other end, who wants to buy something that potentially that could be gone in 5 years?
Because the term is coming out.
Right, and they might decide to do something else with it, and now all that's left is you're on the hook for the next 20 years for a...
Because you still have a mortgage on it.
That's correct.
But the lease is sort of unknown.
Right.
At that time.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a whole different rabbit hole, but I wanted to at least touch on that before we move on.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, for some people it makes sense. For different reasons, it makes sense. But it's not for everybody, for sure.
Great. So, moving on, what is the legal description?
So
we're looking at properties.
Yeah, so maybe you look at the address, it's 123 First Street. That's not the actual legalese part of the address. There's basically there's going to be some numbers and some, it's going to say like this district of this, Esquimalt district. It'll say, lot number this, and a whole bunch of kind of the details of what it is, which is not necessarily what the address is when you look at it.
So when I'm looking at new construction, let's say I'm a buyer, they might not have a civic address or municipal address, like 1234 First Street.
Right.
They'll have, they might not even have a name for the road yet.
Right.
But they'll be selling lot 1, lot 2, and there's some other numbers on this map.
Right.
Yeah. So is that what the legal description?
That's part of it. There's a property identification number that is the number that is attached to that as part of the legal land description.
That specific property.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we would see that normally shortened as a PID number.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good enough for me on that one. Realtors would say, "Hey, I need to go find a lockbox." What lockbox? What are you talking about? What is a lockbox?
Yeah, so the lockbox is just essentially it's where we put the keys. And in today's world of technology, and it's secure. Obviously, you don't want your keys someplace out in the general public that's not secure. So lockboxes are secure. They also, nowadays in the world of technology, we open them with our phones, right? So,
because we have an app for it.
We have an app. It's called an e-key that opens the lockbox, and out come the keys. So it gives us easy access to go and look at a property.
You say gives us easy access. Who has access to this?
Realtors.
Realtors.
Yeah, this is not like anybody can just go get an e-key and start opening lockboxes and going into people's homes.
So there's some security behind it, not just because you're a realtor, and we have license, insurance, and of course that puts us at risk if somebody else is using our code to open these.
Yeah,
doors.
For sure. And the fact that they're not giving out the e-key to everybody. You can't just phone up and say, "Hey, I need an e-key because I want."
Just go up to a website, put in your credit card, give me an e-key.
Right.
No. So only licensed people.
Yeah. Okay. You have to have a real estate license, and that means that you have to be licensed by the board that you're under, and and that means that they have done, as part of your licensing, there's been the whole security clearances, criminal record checks, and all of those things too. So.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
I know with our technology, we used to keep track of this manually, or we could phone in to see like, oh well, who was the last person in our, or who opened that lockbox.
Yeah.
Was the last. Now we have it all digital
Yeah.
to see like, oh, BJ showed my listing, and in 20 minutes or an hour later the lockbox was closed again.
Right.
So in between that time, if something goes missing from the house, you know who the last person at least to start asking questions about. Or somebody left the house open by accident, let's say.
Right.
So there's a trackable way of seeing who's in the house last.
Yeah.
I love that about our system.
Yeah, it's security.
So it's all part of our lockbox system.
Right. And it just gives more security for, and here's the other thing. It means that I don't have to go, driving to a completely different location, get keys, and then come to the property and show you the property, and then, okay, I got to go back to this location where I got the keys from, like an office or something.
Makes it super convenient for us to service our clients.
Yeah. And it does happen every once in a while. I've dealt with situations over the years where they said, no, you have to come to for whatever reason.
Yep.
And that's fine. You have to come
some buildings don't allow them.
Yeah. Or, and nowadays we're seeing more in the Victoria area, what we call VREB lock boxes. So that's a Victoria Real Estate Board lock box that's just basically anchored right to the wall, or some secure place.
Yeah, it's in a steel housing.
Yeah, and that key is only for the main entrance. Right? So that then for the condo itself, you can put your lockbox on the door or put it on a hanger on their door. But what it does do is then you don't have 15 different lockboxes in front of somebody's building.
So if anybody's wondering if they haven't seen that kind of steel housing on, let's say, a condo building, that's because the Victoria Real Estate Board started that program. We're our founders, originators of that.
Okay.
To make it easier for us to service our clients, especially for condo sellers.
Right.
So, all right, we got that one. Moving on. Well, clients would hear this in this context. I'm going to be listing your house, and it's going to be on the MLS system. Well, what is the MLS system?
Yeah, well, the short form is MLS. It's called the Multiple Listing Service, and essentially it allows us. It's a service that all the realtors are going to be part of, and allows us to advertise our listings on that property. I look at the MLS, you look at the MLS when we're looking for, specific properties that fit certain parameters that clients are looking for. It's interesting. I know an agent who in South America, he's explaining to me how they don't have an MLS service. They just, they just post it, and whoever sees it sees it.
Like on an individual website, or
it's like a group. I think it's WhatsApp or something that they use that all the realtors are part of.
Oh wow!
And they post directly to there if somebody's got a listing coming up.
I know in the U.S. because we've been we go to Orange County, and they will have like an Orange County MLS system.
Yeah.
And if you go to Beverly Hills, they'll have like a separate system again.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we used to have two separate ones here on the island, and now they're combined. We used to have one for the Upper Island and one for us, the Victoria Real Estate Board, and then the Vancouver Island Real Estate Board. We've combined that. The boards are still separate, but there's one MLS for both now.
Right. This is on the back end of the system. So there's the Victoria Real Estate Board and the Vancouver Island Real Estate Board are data sharing now.
Yeah.
Right. So it's easier for us in Victoria if we're going to go to Duncan, it's 45 minutes from Langford. It's about the same distance from Langford to North Saanich.
Yeah.
Well, we can enter. We used to have to do it manually. We had to fax it to the other board and by hand type or write in our descriptions if we listed something in a shared area. Not to be confused with a website system where the MLS feeds these real estate boards feed to the Realtor.ca, which used to be a long time ago MLS.com.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
so that's kind of evolved over time.
Yeah, and our listings get fed when after we input them into our MLS, they still get fed to Realtor.ca.
Right, as long as you're a member of one of these Victoria Real Estate real estate boards that are members of the Canadian Real Estate Association.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's do one more. We'll cap it off with when people are asking me, what does it cost to buy a house? We end up talking about property transfer tax.
Property transfer tax.
And we hear it PTT,
Yeah.
for sure.
You know, it was supposed to be a temporary measure in the 90s, right?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the property transfer tax was not supposed to be a permanent thing.
Right, but when the government gets funds from somewhere, they don't seem to let go. They don't seem to like cancel things afterwards.
Yeah, and you know, and it became a pretty profitable, I don't know if profitable is the right word, but a pretty lucrative means of additional income for the government,
Oh, it's huge revenue.
right?
Yeah.
So essentially, what it means is when you buy a home in Victoria, or pardon me, in British Columbia, you, the buyer, are going to pay a tax, which is unless you're a first-time home buyer, and then only if the home is 500,000 or less, you're exempt. Otherwise, you're going to pay a tax essentially based on the value of the home. So it's 1% on the first 200,000.
Okay.
And
So
then
that'd be $2,000 on
okay,
200,000.
and then 2% on the remainder up to $2 million. Is that right? $2 million.
$2 million.
Yeah, up to $2 million.
Is there anything after $2 million?
And then it's 3% after $2 million.
Oh, it's 3% after that. So it quickly adds up.
Yeah.
Especially if you're looking at, and if there's any other taxes, which we won't get into today, but that's essentially it for the property transfer tax. This is based on the purchase price.
Yeah.
That you were saying.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Make sure you have enough. Oh, I'm gonna ask on top of that. Can you finance the property transfer tax?
you can try. You know, who's going to lend you money to pay your taxes and then let you pay it back over 25 years?
Okay, so it's not traditionally accepted as being able to finance the property transfer tax, but if you pay GST on a property, it's rolled in, and if it's if it's an insured mortgage, so if it's not conventional, under 20%,
Under 20%, yeah.
you're mortgaging the insurance amount too.
Yes.
Sorry, I got carried away.
Yeah.
And if you want more context to that, please reach out to us and I'll explain it a lot more.
Yeah.
But it's for me, it's peculiar. It's funny that you can finance those other taxes and insurance costs, but you can't finance the property transfer tax.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, I hope you guys found that informative and help you prepare you more in the buying process, as if that's either buying a house or selling a house in BC.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking the time to watch the video today. If you haven't, please take a minute and like the video. It just helps us with getting the word out there. Subscribe to the channel as we're working towards growing the channel. We want to give you good information. We also are going to include, and we've done a few videos I know so far, and we've got a few more in production about inspiring stories about people who were able to buy their homes or their businesses or whatever the case might be, that they faced some difficulties and found a solution and found a way around it. So take a minute, do that for us. That'll help a lot. If you know somebody that you think would like what we're talking about, please share it with them. And otherwise, we'll see you all next time.
See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.
See ya.